All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to talk a little bit about one event in particular. And that event is going to be Tactical Simulacra number 3. And I'm going to be honest here. This event has a lot going for it. There's a lot in this event that you could call good, that you could call well-crafted and well thought out. But honestly, even with everything that's good with this event, one thing that's pretty clear is that its overall implementation has felt to a lot of players to be really lacking. I decided to wait until the final day of this event to make sure that I could have like a full overview of everything that's going on with it, all of the different buffs, all of the different enemies, before making a final call on the matter. And after I've gone through the final stage, let me talk a little bit about what I did. You might see the reasons for why I have this opinion. Let me pull up my VOD from earlier today, which essentially breaks down what my experience on the final stage was. And I'm going to be honest, it's a little ridiculous. It's a little completely ridiculous. We've got my VOD from earlier today, and let me break down a little bit about what's going on over here. I enter into the final stage of Tactical Simulacra with a team consisting of Phoebe, the Trial Rover, and Shorekeeper. Well, I guess we just roll with this then. That's what I have going for me. The only thing is, this Phoebe, as you can see from the middle of my screen, this Phoebe has 10,000 health. This Phoebe has absolutely no echoes on her. And I genuinely thought that the difficulty of the clear was like normal and that they amped it up. But the reason why my clear was going so slow or like had some element of challenge with it was that this Phoebe had absolutely no equipment on her. And I went ahead. I just went through the challenge run thinking, okay, we'll just see how far I can go. And I eventually quit out partway through the clear. I quit out partway through the clear because I realized I probably wasn't going to clear in time. And I'm still able to get the full rewards. I'm still able to get and claim all of the full rewards for stage 6 of the event. And my issue with this event isn't necessarily how easy it is to get the rewards. I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. The issue with this event is the fact that they've put in so much work, so much effort into designing how this event is going to work with all of these specific buffs, that benefit different character types. Phoebe for Spectral Frazzle, Camellia for basic attack, heavy attack for Jian, or even Phoebe 2, Resonance Liberation for a Zhang Liao, echo skills for the characters that really want to specialize in those, and even a focus on dodge counters for the crazy Dan Jin mains. There is so much variability. There's so much cool stuff being woven into these buffs and effects. They're really cool to use and they're really fun to use, and you can see their effects in combat. It's just the enemies in here are made out of literal paper. They're genuinely made out of literal paper, and they will fall apart the second you look at them. And the problem with that is, well, some could say the event is a little bit too easy. The enemies do almost no damage at all. And there's not really any element of risk or any element of, oh, like I need to dodge this or I need to play well over here. It's a far cry from the previous Tactical Simulacra, right? Which had a ton of like very in-depth dodge mechanics that you had to do or else you wouldn't be able to get full rewards. But they might have gone a little bit too far. Just in terms of providing us this many ways of playing the game and leveraging character kits, but not really having any encounters that focus on them at all. And so with that, what I wanted to do is show you all what the clear actually genuinely looks like when your characters actually have equipment on them. So let's give it a look. Let's give it a look and see what exactly I'm talking about over here. I'm going to use the same exact team that I was using in this footage where I, just cleared with the Phoebe that had no equipment on. And you can see I'm not doing that much damage, right? It looks like it's a pretty challenging boss fight. I'm doing like 9Ks with the heavy attack, no big deal. And the attacks, as you can see, aren't even doing a dent to my Phoebe with 10,000 health and no echoes on her. So now let's see what it looks like with a full build. So again, we're going to be using the Trial Rover. Building up that energy.
I sense your
Leave it to me.
weakness.
In war with time.
Swift and resolute. The end has come. One with the sound.
And now we're back onto Phoebe.
Answer me.
Swift and resolute.
Crystals.
And as you can see, guys, the enemies are basically just getting one shot.
In the
Swift
name
and
of
resolute.
Imperator.
They're dying in what seems like one outro skill.
Sentinel protect me.
And there's just not too much to do here. You're kind of just one-shotting every single boss,
I
Swift
call
and
upon
resolute.
the Sentinel.
getting Concerto spammed, right, because of some of the buffs that I'm getting.
Hour is upon
That's
us.
cool and everything, right?
Leave it to me.
But there's almost like
Loading.
no need to do actual rotations, no needs to really like think about the buffs that you're
Swift
using.
and resolute.
And it gets to the point, right, where because the enemies are so easy, it's simply not as fun.
One with the sound.
And it's fair to say that maybe the event being easy is good,
Sentinel protect me.
but when it's this easy, guys, where the enemy is just going to blow up during your sub DPS's
Be
setup,
on guard.
you're kind of left wondering, what is the point?
Judgment time.
Where half of an HP bar is going to disappear after using one ability. It does make you wonder,
Moment of
what,
resonance.
he died during Phoebe's outro skill. I couldn't even use Spectral Rover's attacks.
Sentinel protect me. I
Swift
call
and
upon the
resolute.
Sentinel.
This is how fast the enemies are melting at full builds.
Strike.
And you would hope that Hecate would be like a little bit different, right?
Sentinel protect me. Over there.
But she's just also gonna blow up.
Strength.
The full clear took around maybe 2 to 3 minutes. I'm kind of interacting with the buffs, but that's giving me 16k points out of 8. And what I had wished the devs had done is, because it's so easy to get 8k points at a baseline, why not make the stages harder towards the end? Why not make the stages way more difficult, the enemies a lot harder, if the max rewards cap out at 8,000, and then once the system detects, or the game detects, right, that the player is at the full thresholds? I mean, what's the problem of making those enemies harder, of giving more of a challenge, of allowing for these buffs to have an impact? Because as long as the players are getting the full rewards, I don't think that there's necessarily an issue with having a bit more of a challenge tacked on for the final boss. Sure, people might not be able to say that they beat Hecate or that they defeated all of the stages, but when they go ahead and they're able to claim all of the maximum points anyways, despite that, I don't think there's much of a problem at all. Wrapping up the difficulty once people have gotten the rewards, because in its current state, this is cool for trialing characters. You can easily clear with the trial characters that you have available, but it's also not really able to show the full potential of the characters either, because everything is melting so fast. When my Phoebe in one outro skill is completely draining an entire boss's HP bar with a single cast, then I'm not able to see or experiment or use the rest of her kit. And so from the perspective of a newer player that wants to try out newer members of the roster, you're not really even getting that full exposure either. And so my feedback for Kuro, again, when it comes to this event, is keep the rewards low. Keep the rewards low. But as you get closer to the end of the stage, once you pass the reward threshold, make the enemies a little bit harder. Give them a bit more of a challenge. Maybe make them hit harder. And then maybe you want to tack on a slight reward for defeating the final boss of each challenge. That's like, a couple of shell credits and, like a potion or two. Not asteroid? Sure. But right now, it's kind of just like, this event, Tactical Simulacra, at least for players that are maybe closer to day one players, or they're veteran players, and they're not somebody that started in 2.0, it kind of does feel like a complete chore, at least at this moment in time, because you're basically told about all of these cool things you can do, but you're never given an opportunity to actually use them. And considering that this score can go up to like 16, 17, 18k points, and you only need 8, there's a lot of potential here to rewire some things and give a more engaging experience to everybody in the player base, as opposed to just, well, people that don't have these characters and want to try them out. But if you're taking that perspective, a free-to-play or a new player that maybe hasn't gotten Carlotta, hasn't gotten Gian, hasn't gotten Yinlin or Camellia, and they're getting a chance to use them, it's great. But, I mean, I'm going to be real here. There's not much more to this beyond that. And so the skeleton, the backbone, all of these unique buffs, the structure is there. There just have to be some changes made to keep the engagement up for, you know, the most dedicated players that there are. So let me know what you all think. I think Tactical Simulacra needs a lot of tweaks if they're going to release this again in the future. Otherwise, players might get into the mindset of like dreading this event, because there's a lot of things that make it a bit annoying. It's time gated. Each of these stages come out one at a time, and there's virtually no challenge at all in baseline gameplay. This is, in my opinion, worse in difficulty than the weekly boss, because at least in the weekly boss in the Somme Noir that we have in 2.1, you have to choose the right buffs. You have to choose like synergistic combos to make the final boss easy. This is just easy in every single way right from the get-go without actual decision making from the player. I think there's a lot more potential for this mode. It just needs to be explored more. Let me know what you all think. Peace.